We are so very nearly there at the end of the course. As I said, just 2 modules left to go. And in this one, we are going to be discussing what I think is an absolute sleeper weapon for racing drivers in terms of building long-term partnerships and focusing on growth and renewal, because it feels like we do this merry jig, we do this merry dance year after year, and we're looking for sponsors and we're looking for new friends to play with, and there's all the heartbreak. In fact, this year we've seen some very, very big name drivers who we would have thought we would have expected to have shoe-ins for sponsorship all tied up, announced that they no longer have the means and ways to stay in that top tier level of competition, and we're seeing them still racing. We're still seeing them out there taking part. So it shows the value of long-term partnerships and long-term business as well. And we do that by having that good experience, by doing all of the work that we've done previously, by nailing the activation and the ROI and keeping those communication lines open and giving brands, businesses and sponsors that great experience when we work with them. We make them feel special. We make them feel like they are a vital part to us and our journey as racing drivers, because all too often, I've seen it, you've seen it, everybody's seen it. I said this previously, drivers so hyped and we've got this brand on board and it's so exciting, and that is the only damn thing that you hear of them for the rest of the season. You never hear from them until it comes to renewal time. That doesn't cut it. Come on, we're better than that. And that is why brands don't renew. That's why, they've given you their money and then we never hear from them again. So it's all about giving them that consistent effort that, we don't just care about you at renewal time, you're valued all the way through. And it does lead to some very interesting scenarios. So I'll give you a perfect example. I was watching the rather awesome Dan Lloyd vlog that he does for his adventures in the BTCC. He's got his latest episode out, which will immediately date this course, but he'd just done his first round of the season here in 2025 at Donington. It was just a howler. It was such a bad weekend for him. But there's a tiny little snippet of value that I got from that, and it was on his prep in between qualifying, I believe it was, and the race itself, and he's busy talking to one of his sponsors who's actually there at the circuit with him, and Dan's just done a deal with this sponsor to go from a certain amount of sponsorship to an even higher amount of sponsorship, and going from basically being a helmet sponsor to being on the car sponsor. Now, again, we've spoken about how it's more than just a logo on the car, but again, it's another example of how having a good relationship can elevate the amount of support that you get from a person there. Now, what Dan also did was a rather comedic moment where he took the camera, because it was his sponsor that was actually holding, I'm presuming, the camera or the phone or whatever, and Dan took the camera and turned it around on his sponsor and goes, how does it feel to be an even bigger part of the story? And of course they got very awkward and started nervously laughing. But again, things like that are a positive experience. You're making your brand, your sponsor, your partner aware that they are an integral part. They are one of the main characters in this story that is developing, the story of who you are as a racing driver, the story of how you got to be there. And when you make it a story, it makes it all the more attractive to be a long-term part of that. Again, we go back to Sergio Perez, the example that I used earlier, and his Telmex sponsor that has lasted him for the best part of 20 years, taking him from Formula Skip Barber and Formula BMWs all the way up through the feeder series, through British F3, and then into F1 as well, going from sponsoring what is essentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds to then spending $20 to $30 million a year investing in your success and in your story as well. People don't pay that sort of money just because they're being advertised. They pay it because they're part of something special. They've got that connection and they've got that link to you personally. They wouldn't go and spend that, or they would very, very unlikely to go and spend that amount of money immediately on a brand new thing. That's a relationship that's been developed over the years. And that's where building these relationships is so, so important as you go through the course of your career. But let's remember back to what we were talking about earlier in our driver model canvas about the services and things that you can use, because that's another way of building up that relationship. Not only in the things that you can use, but what about services and products that they could use? That's something that I don't see too many drivers kind of connecting the dots. Do you have the service or product from one sponsor that you could use to help another sponsor? It's one of those kind of obvious when you say it solutions, but I don't see many drivers actually connecting the dots and putting things together with that. And what you can then find is that because you can keep one sponsor, you might be able to keep another potential partner or sponsor on board because of the benefit that they get from another potential partner or sponsor on that. But again, when we start thinking about seasons and journeys and career paths that we're doing here, that makes it much more attractive for a business or a brand or a potential partner to stay on board with you. Do they share that vision with you? Do they know about that vision from you? You'd be surprised at the amount of drivers, as I said, going in that season to season mindset who don't share the long-term plan with businesses or with partners. They have no idea that their dream is to go and race at Nürburgring at the N24 and take part in top tier, world-class GT racing. They have no idea that their dream is to get to IMSA or to get to Le Mans or to be racing at Daytona. It's so short-sighted. Never be afraid of letting your sponsor into your hopes and dreams, because sometimes, and again, just sometimes, sponsors and brands and persons, remembering that brand or sponsor or partner that's being with you is a person that's responsible for that sign-off, sometimes they can live vicariously through you. Sometimes a little part of them wanted to be a racing driver and they don't see that in themselves, and they're doing that through you. It's not always the case. It's just very, very occasionally. But again, they're getting to live out something through you as well. So why would you deny them that? Be open and honest with your dreams, your future plans, and where possible, make them the centre character of that story. So that covers growth and renewal, building long-term partnerships. I guess the final thing that I would say to close that one off is, when it comes to renewals, talk about them early. Talk about renewals halfway through your season. Don't wait till you've done your last race and the time is up and you're like, right, cool, you coming on board? Get it in their brain nice and early. Seed that, nice and early, and get them emotionally invested in your success. Remember, back to what we said previously, turn your partners into your fans. But that means that we have got just one module left. And on this one, this is going to be a little bit more ethereal. This is going to be a little bit more woo-woo. This is about the modern driver mindset and securing success long-term, sustaining success for long-term. And this is going to dip a little bit more into my experience as a business performance coach. We're going to be talking about bouncing back from those knockbacks. We're going to be talking about how to master your time, because I am the absolute hypocrite when it comes to talking about that. We're going to be talking about how to never stop learning and evolving as a person, as a driver. And we're going to talk about the absolute secret weapon in your arsenal. We're going to talk about the power of business networking. That's still to come.